Wagner, which section is that?
Section 5.
Section 5, yeah. Hello everyone, this is the 5th Epical Revelation Fellowship. I'm Reverend Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we're going to continue our study on paper 116, The Almighty Supreme, and we're on section 5, page 1273, 16.5.2. Actually, we're going to start on 1, though. I'm going to review that real quick before we go into 2 so we know where we are. Thanks for joining us. Okay. I'll say a little prayer and we'll get started. If y'all see anybody else pop in, let me know, okay? I know all the recorder's going, right? Okay. There we go. Father, thank you for this time together tonight. We pray that you'll bless this meeting tonight and keep our hearts and minds open that we might learn something. And pray that you'll help us take something away tonight and share it with others. We pray that you'll bless this group and bless our families and our health and watch over for our needs. We pray that you'll allow us to learn a little bit each day and become closer to you. And we thank you and we give you the praise in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so we're on section 5. I'm going to just run through this first paragraph since that's where we stopped last week. We're going right into the second paragraph. And Millie, I added a new slide at the last minute. I got looking at this and decided to put it together this afternoon. So it'll be out there on the, you can download it on the slides and the meeting. You can either download last week's or this week's. It's the same files. So, and I'm going to go through that too in a minute here.
That doesn't I have no clue what you're talking about.
Okay, well, don't worry about it then. Can you see our video tonight now at all? Am I moving?
Yes, I see you waving,
Okay, great. Maybe you can read a little bit what's behind me. I don't know if you can or not. All right, so the Almighty and sevenfold controllers. Let's see if I can keep my tongue untangled tonight. Last week we talked about God the Sevenfold. We were talking about the master physical controllers, the supreme power centers, God the Almighty, the God of action, the Isle of Paradise, and the source of paradise. And talk about how these groups are inseparable from God the Sevenfold. If y'all remember, I had a slide on that. Let me find the right notes here so we get to go. And basically what we decided was that God the Sevenfold, which is the Creator Son of the Creative Spirits, the Ancients of Days, the Seven Master Spirits, the Supreme Being, the Conjoint Actor, the Eternal Son, and the Universal Father, are all directly interconnected and related to the seven physical beings, which are the master physical controllers, the supreme power centers, the supreme power directors, the Almighty Supreme, the God of action, the infinite spirit, the Isle of Paradise, and the source of paradise, the Universal Father. And that's where we stopped last week. So let's take it up from there on paragraph 2. And Diane, you want to take that first? Oh. The bifurcation.
The bifurcation of energy and spirit, stemming from the conjoint presence of the Eternal Son in Paradise Isle, was symbolized in the super-universe since when the seven master spirits united...
Skipped a line there. Presence of the Eternal Son, the Isle of Paradise, was symbolized in the super-universe since. Okay.
Since when the seven master spirits unitedly engaged in their first act of collective creation. This episode witnessed the appearance of the seven supreme power directors. Concomitant with therewith, the spiritual circuits of the master spirits contrastively differentiated from the physical activities of power director supervision, and immediately did the cosmic mind appear as a new factor coordinating matter and spirit.
Okay, so basically, now I'm going to introduce this new slide, which is about this paragraph, okay? And if you can see it behind me...
What's the slide number, Roger?
It's slide 41. I just put it up this afternoon, so if you didn't download the new one, you won't have it.
I have it.
Okay. Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit, this paragraph. The bifurcation of energy and spirit stemming from the presence of the Eternal Son and the Isle of Paradise. Now what we have is the eternal Son is the God of what? Spirit, right? And the Isle of Paradise controls what? Energy matter, doesn't it? All the gravity circuits and all the circuits come out of paradise, don't they? And what helps control that is the what? Infinite Spirit, right? Okay. And because of this bifurcation of energy and spirit, automatically the 7 master spirits appeared and unitedly engaged in their first act of collective creation. Now I got another slide right after this that shows where they came from. But when they engage together, the 7 master spirit, there's a master spirit for every single super universe, right? And immediately the appearance of the 7 supreme power directors appeared. Okay? And that's that direct correlation we talked about just a minute ago, you know, of how the spiritual beings and the power beings are so interconnected and interrelated, right? And then on the appearance of this, concomitant therewith, the spiritual circuits of the master spirits contrastively differentiated from the physical activities of the power director's supervision, and immediately did the cosmic mind appear as a new factor of coordinating matter and spirit. So the cosmic mind, you know, we talked a lot about the cosmic mind before. That's the mind of God that takes over when we leave the 7 adjective mind spirits of the local universe, right? And then we have influences of the cosmic mind, and that's what they're talking about here. It's the coordinating spirit of matter and spirit. You see that? Okay, and that's pretty important. So this cosmic mind helps coordinate the physical and the spiritual. You see that? Okay, let's go one more slide, and I'm going to show you something right here on this next one. And I hope y'all can see this on the wall back here. It's basically a picture of paradise and the executive worlds of the 7 master spirits, and they're on the spiritual spirit circuit, one of the 3 rings that surround paradise. Okay, and there's 1 master spirit for each of the super universes. Now let me read what this slide says because it's interesting. The executive abodes of the 7 master spirits are in reality the paradise headquarters of the 7 super universes. So these are the super universe headquarter worlds, okay? And they're correlated segments in outer space. Each master spirit provides over 1 super universe, and each of these 7 worlds is exclusively assigned to one of the master spirits. Now, if you remember last week, we talked about how master spirit number 7, which is our universe of Arvanton, is in touch with all 7 of these through reflectivity, right? He's the very last one, but he in essence is in charge, like a board of directors of the 7 master spirits. That's why this is really important to us. So universe number 7 came last, but we have the controlling factor in the master spirit number 7. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Linda, would you take the next paragraph, please?
Sure. The Almighty Supreme is evolving as the overseer of the physical power of the grand universe. In the present universe age, this potential of physical power appears to be centered in the 7 supreme power directors who operate through the fixed locations of the power centers and through the mobile presences of the physical controllers.
Okay, so here's where the Supreme comes in to be so important. The Almighty Supreme being the over-controller of the physical power of the grand universe. So if you think about it, the Almighty Supreme controls all 7 of the supreme power directors, doesn't she? So basically, that connection between the spiritual and the physical, the physical being the 7 supreme power directors, is controlled through the Almighty Supreme. Now, what does the Supreme do? okay, which is part of the Almighty Supreme. That's part of the spiritual part too, isn't it? So they're inseparable. You can't take them apart from each other ever. You got the spiritual and you got the physical, and they're totally interrelated. Okay.
I don't see how they can be physical if they're not on the world. I mean, if they are us.
They're a spiritual being. They have a spiritual body, in essence. Well, really, they're more like the infinite spirit. They incorporate all matter. If you think about it, they're within everything. You know, they're being.
They have what we would know as a Urantia body, a Urantia body.
No, they're higher than that. It would be more of a spiritual body, but it's not physical. You can't see it. Okay, it's a being more than a body, I would say. Okay, because
I see Roy.
Yeah, I just popped him in here. Maybe he'll pop in a second here. It's dialing him anyway. We'll see if he comes in. So you have to think of it more like a spiritual force than anything, I think, Millie, if you think about that. You know, that encompasses everything, right? But it does have personality. It's not like a gravity circuit. It controls all that. It's the intelligence behind it, in essence. All right, let's keep going. Elizabeth, you want to take the next one?
Okay. The time universes are not perfect. That is their destiny. The struggle for perfection pertains not only to the intellectual and the spiritual levels, but also to the physical level of energy and mass. The settlement of the seven super universes in light and life presupposes their attainment of physical stability, and it is conjectured that the final attainment of material equilibrium will signify the completed evolution of the physical control of the Almighty.
Okay, so what we see out here in the seven super universes is not perfection, is it? Even the physical bodies and the physical mass is not perfect, is it? It will eventually attain that. That's what they're saying here, but at this point, it's not there at all. So, and they say that they spoke of this when in an earlier part of this paper when they talk about if you could see. That's strange. I didn't get an answer on Roy. Let me try it again. If you could see Havona and compare it to the seven super universes, you'd see the difference between perfection and non-perfection, because Havona, all the physical matter, the planets, the beings, everything is what? Perfect. Closer to perfection. Not as perfect as Havona, as paradise, absolute, but it's closer than we are, right? But it says right here, until we reach light in life, we will not attain total physical stability, or what else? Spiritual stability either, will we? Because they're interrelated. Okay, let's go to the next one. Millie? Hey Roy, how you doing?
Anyway.
Hello.
Good.
Trouble.
Welcome, Roy.
Hey, Mildred. Hey, Roy, how are you, brother? I'm fine. How about yourself? Doing good. It's good to see you or hear you. Who's that, Linda, or is that Diane?
Yeah, it's Linda.
It's Linda.
Diane's next to me. Can you see my picture? Can you see my video tonight, Roy?
I see you and your wife sitting there together.
Okay.
I see you one and you.
You can tell who's prettier, right?
Yep.
All right.
Sometimes they actually move.
Yeah.
Right now they're frozen.
They're frozen.
Yeah.
Well, I got a
They have
different.
been moving.
I got a different camera tonight. This is the one on the computer itself, so maybe it'll work a little better.
I've got a cricket in my ear. I don't know what it is. Something chirps.
I'm hearing it too. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Okay, Millie, you want to take the next section?
Okay.
The next paragraph?
Where are we?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Page 1274.
Paragraph 3. It's paper 116, 513.
You with us? In the early days of universe building, even the paradise creators are primarily concerned with material equilibrium. The pattern of a local universe takes shape not only as a result of the activities of the power centers, but also because of the space presence of the creative spirit. And throughout these early epochs of local universe building, the Creator Sun exhibits a little understood attribute of material control, and he does not leave the capital planet until the gross equilibrium of the local universe has been established.
Okay, so in the early days, the Creator Sun can't hardly leave the capital planet of Salvington, can he? And that's still the case with the creative spirit. She's got a central location she emits from, right? She never can leave the local universe. But what they're saying here is that in the early days, even the material equilibrium, what would that be? The gravity and the material of the planets and everything else is dependent on the Creator Sun and the creative Mother Spirit, isn't it? And
Keeping everything balanced. it sounds
keeping
like.
everything balanced. That's right. And as we come closer and closer to equilibrium, then the Creator Sun is free to go on and do what? His 7 bestowals. So this was in the early day before the bestowals, right? Now, when he left to do the bestowals, even in his local universe, we had to have reached a certain amount of equilibrium. And that which we haven't reached, who takes care of that? That would be the creative Mother Spirit, right? So she's pretty important to keep everything balanced. Okay, let's keep going. Roy, would you take the next one?
Okay. In the final analysis, all energy responds to mind, and the physical controller are the children of the mind god, who is the activator of paradise pattern. The intelligence of the power director is unremittingly devoted to the task of bringing about material control. Their struggle for physical dominance over the relationship of energy and the motion of mass never ceases until they achieve finite victory over the energy and mass which constitute their perpetual domain of activity.
Okay, so who is the mind god? It's
The
the,
sun.
Creative
No.
Mother Spirit.
no, the infinite spirit, right?
Oh, that's right.
The
Yeah.
mind god is the infinite spirit, right? Okay, and she is the one, or he is the one, who activates paradise pattern, right? That's where everything comes from the pattern of paradise, okay? But it's the infinite spirit that controls this. Okay, so if you think about it, the power directors would be whose children? The infinite spirit. Right. So all the power and the matter and the physical dominance is controlled through the infinite spirit. Do you see that? All of it. And if you add the spiritual part, who does that? That's the eternal Son. That's right. Okay. Let's keep going. You want to take the next one, dear?
The spirit struggles of time and space have to do with the evolution of spirit dominance over matter by the mediation of personal mind. The physical, non-personal evolution of the universes has to do with bringing cosmic energy into harmony with the equilibrium concepts of mind subject to the over-control of spirit. The total evolution of the entire grand universe is a matter of personality unification of the energy-controlling mind with the spirit-coordinated intellect, and will be revealed in the full appearance of the almighty power of the Supreme.
Okay, so it's the combination of what again? The spirit and the mind, right? That controls everything. And who controls that? The Supreme, right? So the Supreme is, in essence, the over-controller of all of this. All right. Linda, you want to take the next one?
The difficulty in arriving at a state of dynamic equilibrium is inherent in the fact of the growing cosmos. The established circuits of physical creation are being constantly jeopardized by the appearance of new energy and new mass. A growing universe is an unsettled universe, hence no part of the cosmic whole can find real stability until the fullness of time witnesses the material completion of the seventh.
Okay, so as the Creator Sons keeps adding new planets and new materials, with each planet and with each mass that they add to their local universe, it upsets the equilibrium that's already there, doesn't it? Okay, so
Sense.
pardon me.
So that makes a lot of sense.
It does. So they have to constantly adjust the energy circuits, the gravity circuits and that sort of thing, to keep everything balanced through that. And they keep on doing this as long as there's growth in the 7 super universes. Now, when the 7 super universes reach light and life, all the spiritual circuits will be settled. But what else will be settled? The material, right? So there will be no new growth of planets and things like that in the 7 super universes, right? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So until we reach light and life, there will not be total equilibrium in the 7 super universes. That's yet to come.
Is our universe complete, or
No.
No. Or is Michael adding more planets to our universe?
Constantly. And as these planets are added, there's also it takes a huge amount of time to populate them, doesn't it? Populating a planet may take millions and millions and millions of years, right? Because they go through the evolutionary process just like we did. They have life implantation, that takes a long period of time. You're talking millions of years for these things to happen. So for the settlement of the 7 super universes in light and life, we're talking about billions of years yet to come, aren't we? So
let me ask this question. Out of the 7 super universes, is any one of them settling like that?
No. The closest they say is the first one. The first super universe is the closest to settling in light and life.
Well, if we're number 7 and number 1 is not settling light and life,
It's going to be a long time.
We got a ways. Yeah, we got a ways to go, don't we?
we gotta go.
Yeah.
We have lots of time to evolve.
That's right, we do. Okay. You just read.
Excuse Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, would you take the next one?
Okay. In the settled universes of light and life, there are no unexpected physical events of major importance. Relatively complete control over the material creation has been achieved. Still, the problems in the relationship of the settled universes to the evolving universes continue to challenge the skill of the universe power directors. But these problems will gradually vanish with the diminution of new creative activity as the grand universe approaches culmination of evolutionary expression.
Okay, so we got the universes that are settled in light and life, right? They're still affected by the ones who are not, right? Because of the changes in gravity and changes in the circuit. So it keeps the universe power directors busy all the time, doesn't it? And the universe power directors are what again? They're the children of the infinite spirit. So this is part of the infinite spirit's domain, isn't it? The physical control of the universe. All right? Okay, spirit dominance. Millie, you want to take the next one?
Yes. Number 6, spirit dominance. In the evolutionary superuniverses, energy matter is dominant except in personality, where spirit
You still there, Millie? Millie, we lost you.
What's going on?
Okay, we got you back, I think.
Did I go away?
Yeah, you went away for a second there for some reason.
It was all kinds of noise.
Yeah, that's strange. It was probably your connection. Let's take it from the goal of the evolutionary universes again.
Take it from what?
The goal
The
of
goal of evolutionary universes is subjugation of energy matter by mind, the coordination of mind with spirit, and all of this by virtue of the creative and unifying presence of personality. Thus, in relation to personality, the physical systems become subordinate, mind systems coordinate, and spirit systems directive.
Okay, does that make sense? Think about
Oh,
that.
that's really cool.
And think about this. It's the spirit that directs, right? Okay, everything. Even in your physical body. It's your spirit that has master control. It's the mind that manipulates things, right? And it's the mind that so that's coordinate with what? The spirit. All right? And the physical is subordinate to what? The mind and the spirit. Does that make sense? And it works exactly the same way in the 7 super universes. Okay? As it says here, energy matter is dominant except in personality. Who has personality? The Almighty Supreme, doesn't it? That's where the personality comes from. Where else does personality come from? The 7 master spirits, the 7 controllers, right? Physical control, master physical controllers. These are all spirits, and they are the dominant force that controls the physical system. Does that make sense? All right, so it's a pretty neat system. It works just like the human body does. All right. Roy, you want to take the next one?
This union of power and personality is expressed on deity levels in and as the supreme. But the actual evolution of spirit dominance is a growth which is predicated on the free will act of the Creator and creatures of the grand universe.
Y'all see that? The free will acts of the creators and creatures of the grand universe. So all this takes place, why? Because of the over control of the creator sons, doesn't it? And what? The 7, God the sevenfold. Okay? That is, it's their free will acts that makes all this happen. And the interesting part of this, they included us in this. You see that? The creatures of the grand universe. You know how we kind of read last week that we help, we become more and more deity through the Supreme Being, right? The experiences. So we become part of this creator-creature process. Okay? So we actually add to the creation of the universe through our experience. It's kind of neat. We're all little creators in one way or another. Alright.
On absolute levels, energy and spirit are one. But the moment departure is made from such absolute levels, difference appears, and as energy and spirit move spaceward from paradise, the gulf between them widens until in the local universes they have become quite divergent. They are no longer identical, neither are they alike, and mind must intervene to interrelate them.
Okay, so we know on the absolute levels, you cannot hardly tell the difference between energy and spirit then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but as you get farther and farther out in the super universes, they diverge farther and farther away, and that's why you have to have mind to control and intervene to interrelate them. Okay, and where does that mind come from? The infinite spirit, right? All right, let's keep going. Linda, would you take the next one, please?
That energy can be directionized by the action of controller personalities discloses the responsiveness of energy to mind action. That mass can be stabilized through the action of these same controlling entities indicates the responsiveness of mass to the order-producing presence of mind. And that spirit itself, in volitional personality, can strive through mind for the mastery of energy matter, discloses the potential unity of all finite creation.
Okay, now, we're going to talk about this in a minute, but what do you think on our level that unity is? Where does it come from? It comes from the thought adjuster, doesn't it? Our mind decides to do the will of God, okay? And on that decision, we become part of the action of deity, and we help to control this mastery of energy matter. Okay? When our will becomes the will of God, that's where you have the unity. That's where unity comes from. All right? All right, now let's look at it on a larger scale. Throughout the whole master universe, what mind controls all this matter? We have what? The mind of the infinite spirit, right? We have the mind of the master physical controllers, right? We have the mind of the power directors, okay? So there's lots of mind that is manipulating matter through the celestial beings, isn't it? So the importance of mind is, you can't put enough emphasis on it. Okay, Elizabeth, will you take the next one, please?
There is an interdependence of all forces and personalities throughout the universe of universes. Creator sons and creative spirits depend on the cooperative function of the power centers and physical controllers in the organization of universes. The supreme power directors are incomplete without the over-control of the master spirits. In a human being, the mechanism of physical life is responsive, in part, to the dictates of personal mind. This very mind may in turn become dominated by the leadings of purposive spirit, and the result of such evolutionary development is the production of a new child of the Supreme, a new personal unification of the several kinds of cosmic reality.
Okay, so did y'all know that as you become more and more, you let your spirit lead your mind, and the mind lead the body, you become closer and closer to being a child of the Supreme. Isn't that amazing? What a concept. Okay, and up at the beginning of this paragraph, it talks about the Creator, Son, and creative spirits depending upon the physical controllers, right, and the power directors, and they would be nothing without the over-control of the master spirits, would they? So you have both the spiritual and the physical there, and they control the universe, and in us, our spirit and mind that controls our body, and the more we allow our spirit to do that. Now, what are we talking about here? We're talking about doing the will of God through the spirit of the Son, right? Letting our will be their will, and that produces a child of the Supreme, and we become creators. Co-creators. That's right. All right. Millie, would you take the next one?
And as it is with the parts, so it is with the whole. The spirit person of supremacy requires the evolutionary power of the Almighty to achieve completion of deity and to attain destiny of Trinity association. The effort is made by the personalities of time and space, but the culmination and consummation of this effort is the act of the Almighty Supreme. And while the growth of the whole is thus a totalizing of the collective growth of the parts, it equally follows that the evolution of the parts is a segmented reflection of the purposive growth of the whole.
So what we do on Earth is exactly what they do in the seven super universes, isn't it? You know, if we let our spirit control our mind and our mind control our body, that's exactly what's going on in the universe, isn't it? You take the Almighty Supreme controlling, right? And through the 7 creator groups and the 7 power groups, those working together, you have control of the universe, don't you? And it works the same way in the human body. So, all right. Roy, let's go on.
On Paradise,
Monada.
And spirits are as one, indistinguishable except by name. In Havana, matter and spirit, while distinguishable, different, are at the same time innately harmonious. In the 7th superuniverse, however, there is great divergence. There is a wide gulf between cosmic energy and divine spirit. Therefore, is there a greater experiential potential for mind action and harmonizing, and eventually unifying physical pattern with spiritual purpose. In the time evolving universal space, there is greater divinity attenuation, more difficult problems to be solved, and large opportunities to acquire experience in their solution. And this entire super-universe situation brings into being a larger arena of evolutionary existence in which the possibility of cosmic experience is made available alike to creatures and creator, even to supreme deity.
Okay, so let's look at this for a second. Paradise, Monada and spirit are as one. Do y'all know what Monada is? That's the physical matter of paradise. Okay? Monada on paradise. It says Monada and spirit are as one, indistinguishable except by name. So on paradise, you can't tell the difference between the Monada, which is the physical part of paradise, and the spirit. Okay, you hardly can't tell them apart. But it says, it goes on to say that in Havona, the matter and the spirit, while are distinguishable, are different, at the same time innately harmonious. So they're still in harmony, but you can easily distinguish between the two. But when you get out into the 7 super universes, what do you have? You got even less, don't you? It's farther and farther apart. And part of what our job is to try to bring the physical into the spiritual and help be part of the creation process, isn't it? And how do we do that? We listen to our thought adjusters, right? We try to do the will of God. We try to have our will become God's will, and that brings what? Matter and spirit closer together. Does that make sense? All right.
The dominance of spirit, which is existential on absolute levels, becomes an evolutionary experience on finite levels, and in the 7 super universes. And this experience is shared alike by all, from mortal man to the supreme being. All personally strive in the achievement. All personally participate in the destiny.
Okay. Let's break this down a little bit too. The dominant of spirit, okay, is existential on absolute levels. What does that mean to y'all? That means, huh?
Paradise.
Paradise, that's right. Existential. It always has been, always will be, right? And absolute levels is what? Paradise. We know that, okay? And it becomes evolutionary experiential, right? This is part of the supreme on the finite levels, and that's in the 7 super universes, right? And this experience is shared by everyone, everyone that's associated with supreme. So my experience, Diane's experience, y'all's experience, they all become one in the supreme, don't they? All these these spiritual experiences we have, the supreme sucks up like a vacuum, right? And it becomes property of everyone. Okay, that's the way to think of it. All right, and so that's how we all participate personally in the destiny of the supreme. And what is the destiny of the supreme? To become the Almighty Supreme, right? So we actually participate in our own little part in the existence of the Supreme Being. That makes sense? Okay. Linda, would you take the next one?
Are we in section 7 now?
Section 7.
Okay. The living organism of the great universe. The great universe is not only a material creation of physical grandeur, spiritual sublimity, and intellectual magnitude, it is also a magnificent and responsive living organism. There is actual life pulsating throughout the mechanism of the vast creation of the vibrant cosmos. The physical reality of the universes is symbolic of the perceivable reality of the Almighty Supreme, and this material and living organism is penetrated by intellectual circuits, even as the human body is traversed by a network of neural sensation paths. This physical universe is permeated by energy lanes, which effectively activate material creation even as the human body is nourished and energized by the circulatory distribution of the assimilable energy products of nourishment. The vast universe is not without those coordinating centers of magnificent over-control, which might be compared to the delicate chemical control system of the human mechanism. But if you only knew something about the physique of a power center, we could, by analogy, tell you so much more about the physical universe.
Okay, so think about this. The human body has what? A circulatory system, right? It gets its nutrition through, okay? And if you think about this, the universe is just like the human body. It also has what? A nervous system, doesn't it? The nervous system goes out to all parts of the body. It's the electronic control mechanism of the physical body. So if you think about it, the human body, the central nervous system, is much like a spiritual or mind circuit, okay? It controls everything, all right? And the physical part, the nutrition part, is much like the circulatory system, isn't it? So the master physical controllers kind of work through the circulatory system. And that's one there's several ways you could look at this. But in essence, the grand universe they're talking about, all the universes, is like this large pulsating organism, just like a body. It's constantly growing. It constantly needs nutrition. Now, where does it get its nutrition through? The spiritual forces, the mindal forces, and the gravity and matter forces of the infinite spirit, doesn't it? Okay? So all these circuits going through the grand universe, in essence, is just like all the circuits that go through our bodies, isn't it?
This is why the thought gesture is probably really comfortable.
He's right at home, isn't he? That's right. You know, it's what he's used to.
Yeah, really.
Right? Okay. Now think about this. Okay, as human beings, when we over-medicate ourselves, or we drink too much, or smoke too much, or eat too much, or what are we doing? We cause disharmony in the physical body, don't we? It's just like when you have rebellion in the master universe, isn't it? It causes the master universe to get upset. And that's what happens when we abuse our bodies. It gets upset, doesn't it? And what does the human body does? It rebels, doesn't it? Sooner or later it goes, hey, you got to do something. Something's got to change. Well, the universe is the same way. It gets to a point where it says, we can't put up with this anymore. We have to have a judgment on this. And so they get rid of it, doesn't it? Don't they? A purging, right?
Serious.
And that's what we have to do with the human body too. We have to purge it sometimes. You know, sometimes you have to cut everything off and reevaluate to get better, don't you? So it's much like the same thing. And it's kind of interesting that in the Urantia book they bring this up, that the grand universe is like a physical body, and the creation of the grand universe is like a physical body, isn't it? What a beautiful concept. You know, these guys really think this stuff through, don't they? Okay, but I find it fascinating that they talk about the energy lanes in this paragraph actively activate the material creation, even as the human body is nourished and energized by the circulatory distribution of the assimilable energy products of nourishment. So they're talking about just exactly what the human body does, doesn't it? You know, and we talked about this, I guess, a couple Sundays ago in our Sunday meeting, how there's something called space respiration. Do y'all remember that? You know, where the universe expands out for a billion years, and then it turns around and comes back in, so it respirates, doesn't it? What a great concept. When you look at this paragraph, you say, of course it does, right? It would make perfect sense that that's the way it would work, right? All right. Okay. Let's see. Elizabeth, would you take the next one?
Much as mortals look to solar energy for life maintenance, so does the grand universe depend upon the unfailing energies emanating from nether paradise to sustain the material activities and cosmic motions of space.
Okay, do y'all remember the picture we had up a couple weeks ago on Sunday of Nether Paradise, and how all the spiritual circuits and the gravity circuits and everything emit from Nether Paradise and come back into the top, like a big circulatory system? That's what they're talking about. Pardon me?
It was underneath,
It was underneath Paradise, that's right. That's where it emits from and comes back in the top, right? It's
Yeah.
like a big circle, like an 8 almost, right? So that's what they're talking about here. All right. Millie, would you take the next one?
Mind has been given to mortals wherewith they may become self-conscious of identity and personality. And mind, even a supreme mind, has been bestowed upon the totality of the finite, whereby the spirit of this emerging personality of the cosmos ever strives for the mastery of energy matter.
Okay, now this is interesting because they tell us right here that it's our mind that controls what? Helps us become self-conscious of our identity, doesn't it? What happens if we lose our identity and personality? We die, don't we? The body can go on functioning, but you aren't there anymore, right? Okay, and it compares it to the Supreme Mind. So what's interesting about this is the Supreme Mind is such a necessity that without the mind of the Supreme, would the universe keep functioning?
I
No.
don't think so.
No, it's what God has chosen as a mind for the universe, right? Okay? And as the Supreme Mind tries to master the what? The 7 super universes, right? And control the 7 super universes, so do we try to control what? Our own personalities, our spirits, and our minds and bodies to do what? The will of God. And that's exactly what the Supreme Mind is doing, trying to do the will of God in the 7 super universes, right? Mastery of energy and matter. And that's what we try to do here on Earth. Now, we don't do a very good job on it. We usually wait till we get to what? The Morontia worlds before we perfect that, don't we? But it's what we should strive for in this life, right? Is that harmony? Okay.
how wonderful that will be when we reach light and life and all of us are moving harmoniously together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Constantly. Just will have to be an awesome experience.
Yeah. And it's really interesting. They talk about in the New Testament, it's heaven on earth. When will that be? That will be light and life, won't it?
Right.
If you think about it, when we reach light and life, that will be heaven on earth. And when that happens, what happens? The Morontia temple comes down, doesn't it?
Yes.
It does. So, when we reach the point where we can live harmonious with one another, and our goals are spiritual goals, and our goals is do the mind of God, right? To do the will of God, then that's when we'll reach light and life, and that will be heaven on earth, won't it? So our concept of heaven on earth. Okay. Who just read?
It's Royce.
Roy, would you take up the next one?
Mortal man is responsive to spirit guidance, even as the grand universe responds to the far-flung spirit gravity grasp of the eternal sun. The universal supermaterial cohesion of the eternal spiritual values of all the creation of the finite cosmos of time and space.
Okay, so we know that the infinite, or God the Son controls the spiritual circuits, don't we? Right? So it's the eternal Son that tries to bring spirit to matter, doesn't it? If you think about it. It tries to bring the spirit part to matter. And what does the infinite spirit does? It tries to do the mind control to matter, right? And controlling what? The time and space. The time and space area of what? The finite universe, right? And that's their job. And it says here that man is responsive to spirit guidance. What do you think our spirit guidance is? How about the spirit of truth? Is that not a spiritual guidance? Right? All right. keep going. We got a couple more here, I think. All right.
Human beings are capable of making an everlasting self-identification with total and indestructible universe reality, fusion with the indwelling thought adjuster. Likewise does the Supreme everlastingly depend on the absolute stability of original deity, the Paradise Trinity.
Okay, do y'all notice here that they akin the relationship of the human being and the thought adjuster, you see that? With the relationship of the Supreme and the Paradise Trinity. Do you see that? So our relationship with God the Father and the adjuster is exactly like the relationship of the Supreme to the original Paradise deities, which is the Trinity. Okay? And that's what the Supreme is striving to do, to fuse in essence, in purpose, with that Trinity or that Paradise deity, just as we are trying to fuse with what? The Father fragment. And that's how we become what? Perfect, more perfect. And that's how the Supreme becomes what? More perfect, right? So she takes her experience and adds it to the Trinity. Do you see that? We take our experience and add it to what? The adjuster. Right? Okay. One more paragraph here. Linda, would you take it? Yeah.
Man search for paradise perfection, whose striving for God attainment, creates a genuine divinity tension in the living cosmos that can only be resolved by the evolution of an immortal soul. This is what happens in the experience of a single mortal creature. But when all creatures and all creators in the grand universe likewise strive for God attainment and divine perspective, there is built up a profound and constant tension which can only find resolution in the sublime synthesis of almighty power, the spirit person of the evolving God of all creatures, with the supreme being.
Okay, I want to bring something up here that's an interesting concept on this last paragraph here. They talk about this tension that's created, right? And how we are striving for paradise perfection. God has created this perfect part of himself he gives to us, right? And in doing that, that is divinity, isn't it? That's perfection. So it creates this tension within us to try to strive for perfection, okay? And the same thing works in these universes. What do you think the unqualified absolute does? When it goes out into the outer space levels and it takes primordial matter and starts creating an area that's prepared for this creator personalities to come in and fill it up, what does it do? It creates a void, doesn't it? It creates a void that needs to be filled. So what fills that needs? The creators, right? It works the same way in our life. God the Father has given us this Father fragment, okay? And that creates a what in our life? A void for perfection. And that's why we have this innate willingness, if you would, or this innate void within us to try to fill to perfection. Does that make sense? And it works just the same way as it does in the universe. Okay? And that's what they're talking about here, the synthesis of the almighty power of the Supreme with the spirit person of the evolving God of all creatures, the Supreme Being. So what are they talking about there? They're talking about the Almighty, the power controller, creates a void that the Supreme and the experience only will fill up. Right? So you can't have the Supreme without the Almighty. You can't have the Almighty without the Supreme. They become what? The one, the whole. And how does that affect us? We become what? The one and the whole with God the Father and the adjuster. So God the Father finds finality or finite life through us. We find divinity with the adjuster through the Father. Okay? And the Supreme takes all this experience and adds it to what? The Trinity. You follow that? Makes sense?
It's a path.
It's a pathway. Okay? And this was sponsored by a mighty messenger temporary sojourning on Urantia. Okay? And that finishes paper 116. And next week we will take 170. I know we're a little bit early tonight, but I don't want to start a new paper and halfway through another one. So we're going to knock it off here. Let me stop the recording and we'll have a little discussion and answer questions and that sort of thing. Give me 1 second here. Thank you for joining us. Please come join us again. If I can get this to start.